Welcome to the Total Acre podcast. I'm your host, C.R. Siebold. This podcast is all about helping growers unlock their potential. We aim to bring listeners agronomic insights, valuable educational interviews, real-world strategies that optimize yield and maximize ROI. This show is going to explore innovative practices, creative strategies, and breakthrough products with people that are shaping the industry, all through engaging and inspiring stories. Who better to learn from than the legendary world champion David Hula, Randy Dowdy, and Alex Harrell? Because in farming and in life, iron always sharpens iron. And the best way to grow or get better is to continually be learning, networking with peers, have access to industry leaders, and the tools, tips, and tricks, and overall quality of information. Knowledge is power. Tune in, hit play. Let's unlock your farm's potential together. Hey, y'all. Chad Siebold here, coming to you with one of the most interesting interviews you're going to see probably on Total Acre with my next guest, Grant Hilbert with American Farming. Grant, thanks for coming on with us, bud.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it a lot. Joined Total Acre in the middle of last summer. It's been a ride. It's been fun ever since.
Man, it's kind of crazy how things happen, right? So when you look at last year, we were sitting down kind of chatting about what you were doing. Obviously, I loaded this game up. That's how I kind of found you, or we found each other, right? And I'm like, no way, this kid from Iowa State created this thing, and I'm out here jamming with my kid on the iPhone, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, exactly. When I hopped on this call, I was surprised you had to pull it up on the TV there and stuff. So
don't ruin my style here, because when I have some extra time, I'm not TikToking. I'm playing on the app. So I will say though, like I need some older equipment on there. I want to see some old antiques. I want to pull my old 1066. I want to pull some old implements. How do I do that?
Well, that's what we try and focus on. That's so like with that game, a lot of the like people that play it and stuff, like we've gone all old school. So we have like 1066, 1206, like a lot of old international. That's like, and that's what we found out. Like a lot of players are like pumped to have that old equipment there. When you start off on a farm, basically.
1206, right? It's the jam. It's what I want. I haven't got through all of them, to be clear. I haven't found the 1066. I'm just starting out. I was looking for the David Hula character. I couldn't find him on there. I wanted to be David for a day.
Well, we don't have 600 bushel corn yet, so we don't have the David Hula character in there yet. Once we get yields of 600 bushel, we can put him in there.
Well, and that's something that I kind of want to talk about, because listen, it is fun to put that in the game, but it's really about like, how do you get started, right? Your background's unique in that, like, first generation farmer, kind of like what Dowdy did. You said, hey, I'm going to go out and try to generate some revenue. You started, 15, 16, 18 years old. You're pretty young when you started kind of building the gaming side of things and YouTube channels. And
yeah, so like on YouTube, I started, it would have been like summer 2013, 2014, I think. So I would have been like, 14, 15 years old at that time. And we were just like, my whole idea with, so we originally started a gaming YouTube channel in 2014. And I say me and a buddy started it. And we were like, hey, these YouTubers, they're making a lot of money. We see them with like Lamborghinis. Like we're kids. We kind of want to start a business and make some money. Like we had no idea what we were doing. We were like,
sure.
Hey, let's just start a gaming YouTube channel, go out and play a bunch of new video games that are coming out. And so we played a bunch of new video games. And then eventually I was into farming always. And so started playing a game called Farming Simulator. And then that took off over the years, kind of. First 2 years were pretty tough. And then eventually I took over the channel myself in 2016, 2017 is really when the YouTube channel, and it's called The Squad now, started taking off. And then I went to college at Iowa State from 2016 to 2020. And that's where I was just like, okay, let's just post a video every single day on that YouTube channel and see where it goes, kind of. And then by the time I was graduating college, it hit 1 million subscribers, and it just kind of took off those 4 years. And so that
timing's everything, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure during COVID, nobody had anything to do too, right? So you were jamming out right at the perfect time.
COVID was huge for social media and YouTube. I mean, that's when most YouTube channels actually like peaked. Is like when you go back and look at YouTube channels, it was right during that COVID time frame.
Makes sense.
It seemed like.
So back up with me, right? Because where did you get the itch, right? So like you start doing this online digital stuff. 2002, was the internet even invented back then? Come on now, right? but YouTube, right? Like it was still up and coming, but that the Lambos, you're like, man, I don't want Lambos, I want tractors. But
Yeah.
if you go back, where did you start getting the itch for farming, man?
Well, yeah, and on that Lambo side, it was more just reverse engineering. Like, okay, well, people can make money on YouTube, so it's like they're making some sort of decent money. Well, if we just do a little bit of what they're doing, then we can maybe create a job out of this as teenagers.
Sure.
That was a thought, but like I would say, so my grandparents they farmed in northern Iowa, kind of Algona, Iowa, and
Okay.
I was up there as a kid and just always around the farm in the summers and spring break and stuff like that. But
Sure.
there was never going to be the opportunity to go back to that farm. So I kind of always knew like if I want to farm someday at 40 or 50 years old, maybe someday once I save up enough capital that I'm going to have to kind of start my own. So life just
Grandpa and
moved
grandma
ahead.
made it look fun.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
and sometimes, again, that's the itch we all get, right? That you want to scratch. All of a sudden now you're like, man, I used to go to grandma and grandpa's. We used to ride four-wheelers, go out in the field, check field, like all those little things, harvest, right? It's such a great time as a kid to go out and see these things. I'm sure that itch, you start to scratch it, but at the end of the day, something's happening upstairs, right? You're like, oh, okay, now YouTube, right? Like, oh, how do we build this channel? Now, how do you get from I like the idea what grandma and grandpa was doing up in Algona, which is what, north central, you mean 30, 40 miles from Minnesota, right?
Yeah, 30. Yeah, I would say
And
yeah, 30
you're
miles south of Minnesota. Yeah.
and you're down kind of central, you're kind of Ames, Ankeny, you're right in that kind of heart of the Corn Belt.
Yep. Grew up in Ankeny, but farmed just, I mean, 2 miles east of Ames, north of Nevada, Iowa. Yep.
Okay. So that's today you're farming. But, if you start looking at that, you take that idea, you plant that seed, right? Grandma and grandpa did that with you years ago. And now all of a sudden you water a little bit, right? You talk the farming analogy. How did you get from there to where you are today?
Really, it was, I'll call, I mean, that YouTube channel that like you grew, which is crazy saying that YouTube channel kind of kicks off a farming operation. But, I was extremely passionate about farming because I was playing a game called Farming Simulator. And in those videos, I just basically showed like I was ridiculously excited about starting a new map in Iowa or starting a farm over on the Farming Simulator series. And so
Sure.
that just kind of, I'll call it, rolled. And then by the time I was graduating college that senior year, I was looking, I was like, maybe I could buy a farm or two, not high quality, not, your 90 CSR2
Sure.
farms, but some low quality farms and kind of fix them up and then learn farming over time. Kind of, I knew I couldn't go buy like, 500-600 acres of just high quality land, start operation that way. But I was like, well, we could maybe go buy some rougher farms and work on those. And so senior year, I was just like, every day when I woke up, I was just looking at listings and eventually bought let's see, 3 different farms, but 250 acres, just kind of in Mahaska County, Iowa.
Oh,
So
yeah.
southeast Iowa, and
Sure.
little rougher farms, but kind of cleaned them up, worked on them. And then in 2023, I eventually traded those farms for farms in Story County, kind of back where I grew up a little
Closer
bit,
home.
east of
Yeah.
Ames. Yep.
Yeah, I
And
was say
so,
in God's country there next to Iowa State.
yeah.
To Iowa State.
Although here's the irony of it all. Like
Uh-huh.
a lot of those farms were like in Mahaska County were like, and I talk about this all the time to people because I've farmed in 2 different areas. Those were like 55 CSR2 farms. And those farms will go produce the same as a mid-80 CSR2 farm wet farm. What I've noticed in Story County, Iowa, that's flat and black. Like there's this notion that like flat and black farms are always the best. And I don't know. After I've seen some rolling farms, it's like, dang, those rolling farms can produce, just as good.
Grant, you bring up a good point too, right? So high CSR means high dollar, right?
Yep.
To me, that's almost one of those things where you can make a lot of mistakes and still have a good crop, right? Is essentially what that looks like. Your lower CSRs, to me, that's your challenging fields where you have to do a little bit more. And speaking of doing a little bit more, we love having you as a Total Acre member. I think when you start looking at opportunities to take dirt that maybe is considered subpar, I think you can bring those yields up, by making adjustments. And that's what Total Acre is all about. And when you look at a first generation producer, listen, Grant, I'm long in the tooth, right? When you start looking at the gray hairs I have, I've only put 22, 24 different crops in the ground, corn, soybean rotation, just starting out. How many years on your third crop maybe now?
This would be fifth crop. This would be fifth
Fifth
crop.
crop. Jeez,
Yeah.
sorry. Jeez, listen, no rookie now, right? I'm sorry.
No.
But,
There's a lot to learn. There's a lot to learn still.
well, and that's kind of the point of like, hey, how do I take a network? And this is the Total Acre stuff. How do I take a network and actually leverage that network so I don't make these mistakes?
Yeah, exactly. I would say, coming in, so 2021 was my first growing crop, and I didn't know how to set a planner. I didn't know how to do anything. I thought I did going into it, but then you get out there and you're like, oh wait, like how do I set this planner? What depth? Like you run through everything.
Sure.
So like that's how I look at it. But then coming out of Iowa State, I just studied ag business and economics, and so like I didn't know anything about agronomy or anything like that, but I just come from a mental framework of, okay, if I'm lucky, I'm going to farm for the next 30 to 50 years of my life. Like I would way rather dive really deep into this, learn from you guys, learn from a lot of members of the Total Acre program, and try and learn it all instead of for the next 30 or 50 years of my life being like, okay, we got the right P and K. Our pH is hopefully decent every 4 years when I soil sample every 4 years, and hopefully I got enough nitrogen out there. Like that seems like extremely boring way to farm. And it's like, I would way rather push ourselves and learn a lot the next 5-10 years, consistently learn over a lifetime, but learn a lot early on. So those returns compound over my life is how I look at it.
It's like an approach that listen, if you don't need practice, right? Nobody wants practice when you have to take another year to actually correct it, right? I think if you met, I don't know if you met Brian Maddox that runs all the trial side within Total Acre.
Mm-mm.
So he takes what he calls a systematic approach to farming, right? So almost like your gamification, right? He's an engineer, which way more intelligent than I am. But now all of a sudden, that's how that software is built within Total Acre. It's a systematic approach. It's almost like a game, right? And if you probably, as your mind kind of works, it kind of gamifies itself, right? A little bit farming.
Oh, everything. I look at, which is terrible to say, I look at life farming, a lot of business as just a game. Kind of like what's the best way to play this game, I would say. But yeah, when I look at Total Acre too, it's like, okay, well, yeah, first of all, let's dominate this game. But also like, yeah, when you look at the software side of things, like I just pulled my second or third tissue samples on some farms. It's so nice to be able to take tissue samples in and then see, okay, here's what it says I need to be doing. And it's just a whole different way of farming, I'll say, that I'm used to.
Grant, and that's called, for those that don't know, it's called NPR, nutrient power ranking. So it tells you where you're deficient, right? So based off all the algorithms, all the historic data within Total Acre, it does. It's not. There's no easy button, right? And Hulu will say, there's no silver bullet. But back to what we talked about with some of your subpar ground, anybody can grow 300 bushel corn on 90. What you get 90 CSR2s, and again, we're talking Iowa language here, but high quality farm ground. But on your challenging acre, that's where those ROIs and bushels count just as much, and if not more, right? Because on your lower performing ground, and that's where I think you look at gamification. Again, I think my wife could go farm out on some of the grounds in central Iowa, right? Just drop it up behind the planter, and you're set. But no offense, Jenny. But I love your background. Super talented. When you can take a mindset, right, and say, hey, I'm going to do something and do it no matter what it is, badass. But what you've created is a cool little empire. So congratulations, first off, for that. As you look at your business, right? So if we go back out of farming, I mean, you've created somewhat of an empire on YouTube, the social media side of things. So just following around, I should bring it up, but I won't. But maybe Kyle, you could pop this in here, is like just your YouTube channel, just following around you as a first generation farmer. Folks can learn from you as well.
Yeah. I should mention, so like I have the gaming side YouTube channel. That's what really got me to where I am today. But then once I started farming in 2021, I started it's just my name on YouTube, just Grant Hilbert on YouTube. And it's just documenting the journey of getting started farming. Like me and my brother. So I have a brother that farms with me who also has another YouTube channel called Spencer Hilbert. We just try and be extremely transparent with what's happening and just watching this farm. I'll call it start from scratch, but there's obviously some outside capital that we've used, that we made ourselves to fund the farm. So
Sure.
We have a little bit head start there, but we just try and be extremely transparent with it. So, for example, my brother, he bought 50 acres on auction last November, and he goes through purchase price, how much he financed, how much he put down, so that and he used the FSA beginning farmer loan, so that other beginning farmers can see all that. So, and he shows like at the end of the year
that's
how much
huge.
Yeah. Even at the end of the year, he
just
shows how much money he netted on his farms, and he's just open to that.
So Spencer, I don't know him. He's your older brother or younger brher?
2 years younger.
Oh, so you used to have to take care of him every once in a while.
Yeah. If I'm being honest though, he kicked my butt at a lot of stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna be honest there.
Well, I think you're throwing down the gauntlet. So next time we're gonna have to get a little arm wrestling match on here or something. You guys.
Yeah.
You're so that is neat though, right? Because to be able to see that it's scary, right? Because whether you make your money doing something like you're doing or you're working a daily grind to be able to buy the family farm, it's scary to know the numbers behind the scenes because they're big and they can be a monster if you don't have the right help. So I think it's cool what you guys are doing with those kind of things. Now, obviously, when you start looking at family operations, right? So we get a lot of that within Total Acre, and communication, and how do you guys, when you start looking at the network that you've built, a lot of I'm going to say the younger generation probably is on the American Farming app, right? They're probably, I say younger, I'm on it. I'm not young. If you haven't checked it out, you should. It's pretty cool. But at the end of the day, you've got a network within Total Acre that's different than some of the other networks that you've built.
Yeah. Total Acre network is like, for example, I went to the field day, I think last August, and it's just like you meet 20 or 30 people there, you're exchanging phone numbers, and then you have a bunch of questions on certain stuff you're asking them. And then inside, YMS too, there's the Total Acre network that seems to work pretty good.
Well, and Grant, like, I don't know if it's this way in and around Story County, but, in Southwest Iowa, we're at, it's competitive, right? It can be really competitive. Yeah. So now that corn looks really good, Grant. What did you do, right? Some of that doesn't get shared at the coffee shop. But this network within Total Acre is kind of nice because even if you're going out to Delmarva, right, or you're going down to Georgia, different soils, but different practices that we could potentially implement on our farm. Tell me a little bit, have you been able to use that, or is that something you're still kind of working towards?
Basically, I'll look through. There's so much data that I haven't even looked through it all yet, but a lot of the end of the year meetings, all that data I've looked through. A bunch of other data on YMS I've pretty much looked through. And then really I'll call it nutrient power rankings is really what I look through a lot. So I probably haven't used Total Acre to its actual full worth just yet, but I know how much it's capable of.
Sure. Yeah. And I think the software piece is definitely right up your alley. One of the networking side of things that I really like is I don't have that heavy, thick Southern accent that my buddy Alex Harrow has. So I miss some of those kind of the terms that he uses when he's out talking about his 200 bushel beans, right? But there are some tips and tricks in there too. There's no silver bullets. But when you look at American farming, for example, I want the cheat code so that I can actually grow higher bushel corn. Is there an agronomy cheat code where I can get the David Hula edition cheat codes so I can grow 600 bushel corn? How do I get that? It used to be, now check this out. You're going to have to Google this, Grant, because it's my age. So it used to be on Contra back on the day. It was like up, select, start, AB, and it would give you like super guns. And so what's my code for American farming?
So nowadays what we do is we're just like, hey, pay $4.99 to be a better farmer. And then you get 400 bushel corn or whatever. That's honestly the monetization strategy that a lot of these games do. But
which is great because it comes off my credit card from my kid's account, right?
I know. I always jokingly say, this is bad, but I always jokingly say, like, when we launch a new DLC, like, we'll have success today if we've made 50,000 moms angry because they have to buy a $2 DLC or something for their kid. So like,
sure,
I'm half joking there, but yeah.
That is actually kind of funny though, because if you look at it, that's what we do as farmers, right? We go out there, we're looking for different mods, right? I think is the term.
Yep.
We're looking for different mods in the software world, but in the real world, we're looking for opportunities to be able to grow bushels. I think we kind of leave bushels on the table. Grant, one of the things, just going back to mods and buying upgrades, you can't just buy a new tractor, right? You can't just buy a new planter. You have to know how to use them. And then I think the same thing on chemistry. one of the secret sauces, I guess, within YMS is, all the different trials that we're doing, like what works, what doesn't work, how do we get better using those? Talk to me a little bit about some of the mods. What do you got coming up? What's the next generation? The latest and greatest. What's the squad got coming? If you can talk about it.
Yeah. So on the American farming side, so like we have what we call Iowa map, which is the base map. And so that map was actually taken out of central Iowa, like real terrain out of central Iowa. But we just are launching the next week a Wisconsin map. So
Okay.
we have, with that comes like hay and alfalfa on the Wisconsin side. And then there's some more complex things we want to get into, more like we have P and K, we have nitrogen, but like your pH on your fields, we want to get into tiling, so you can go pattern tile a field with a Soil Max plow and increase yield 20 or 30%. Like there's some stuff that we really want to get into that we're just trying to figure out, okay, how do we kind of do that? Because one of the things is even the base game players that don't know anything about farming, we realize they like to know a lot of these things, like a lot of the, I'll call it little details. Like we should probably be getting sulfur and some micros in here, honestly, too. Like people love the little details of that. And so that's where we're trying to take the farming game.
Grant, I'm going to introduce you. I don't know if you've met Randy Seaver yet, but he is the YMS, and Colin Willis and Randy Seaver are the brains behind YMS. NPR needs to be put into your game, nutrient power rankings, where now all of a sudden that sliding curve, right? Now all of a sudden, how do you do it? It gamifies it. It'd be pretty cool.
It would be honestly pretty cool, pretty easy. Because I mean, all you could do is you got NPR, you go take a tissue sample out there, and then you get your ranking back, and you go, put a foliar on or side dress passes, something like that, of some sort of micro or something like that. So that would be cool.
I'm gonna make that handshake and high five you guys. Actually, he's coming to. I'm gonna date this thing, but in July. I don't know if you're going to Ag Tech Live. That's gonna be
in Des Moines. In Des Moines.
Yeah. If you're close by, July 22nd, 23rd, I'll get you guys connected for a cup of coffee. See how this is why you joined this today, right? We got this popping.
Yeah. No, I'm down. I'm 15 miles north of there, so it's not far at all.
Seaver's always down for a cup of coffee, so I'll make that introduction. But listen, this is why the ag industry is just the best industry in the world, right? It is all about access to information, connecting dots, building a network, and then we feed the goddamn world, right? It's a crazy world we live in these days, right? But the ag thing, it is nice to have an environment, an industry that we can sit back and be proud to be a part of. And I love what you're doing. As a younger farmer, not a lot of guys, number one, will take the time and the effort and the energy to put something into this and showcase what they're doing. So congratulations. Good job on that. We talked a little bit about what's coming up next with American farming. When you look at the industry right now, there's a little bit of doom and gloom here, but like, what do you like about the industry? What do you like about what's going on in corn, soybean farming on the side that you come from?
I'll say, this is kind of like, I'm not trying to like toot our own horns or anything like that, but one of the things, like I'm super passionate about agriculture, and like with social media, with games like these, even like the farming simulator game, I feel like over the past, and this is going to sound extremely cocky and stuff like that saying this, but over the past like 5-10 years with social media, certain games like this, that I could be wrong here, and maybe it's because I'm just entering farming, but it seems like farming has becoming more, and ag has becoming more trending cooler. Like farming's cool. Like a lot of young kids see some of these people on YouTube or social media or farming or anything like that and want to come back to the farm a lot more. And maybe that's because lately, 2021 through 23, that farming's been, good times, a lot of money's been made and stuff like that. But it seems like farming has kind of trended, I'll call it cooler. And even I grew up in Ankeny, Iowa, where we didn't have FFA. We had a population of 70,000 kids. There's out of 370 kids I graduated with, there was 5 kids that were somewhat interested in farming, maybe. But even like now, I'll talk to a lot of those kids, and a lot of those kids are interested in ag or what a farmer's doing or something like that. And I don't know if it's because of social media or what, but it seems like ag's trending a lot more cooler now, which is cool to be a part of an
Grant,
industry like that.
Grant, you're not tooting your own horn at all here. I think, listen, and there's nothing to be ashamed about with this. I think, to me, it's no different than the folks that are out there going to school now to become, HVAC guys or plumbers. It's okay to be, in the trenches and work get your hands dirty and wear boots.
Yeah.
It's not always about being behind a computer and being in an office, right? And I think that guys like Dirty Jobs, right? I think guys like you, millennial farmer, right? Like telling the next, and I think I'll even go back. You've kind of touched a younger generation than maybe the millennial, right? Than what some of the other guys have been doing out there. And that younger generation, as they get older, you've planted that seed. And I think that's a pretty cool thing is they're looking to fund their dreams, right? I guess if maybe it is some sort of social media platform that allows them to buy some dirt. And then guess what? These young farmers become a part of their communities again. And a lot of that's disappearing, which is really sad. So I commend you for what you're doing, because education is a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up where, you have Michael Jordan, you have, Tom Brady, and then you have a farmer. And as much as I love sports, I'm like, oh, that's a farmer over there. I gotta go talk to that guy. If I had three of those guys in the room. That's how I grew up
right.
as a young kid, like inspiring to be a farmer. So I don't know if it's like that today, but
I think he's probably a little older than you, but 49ers quarterback was kind of from your neck of the woods, right? And I don't want to bring Iowa State up too much, but a guy like Purdy, right? It doesn't hurt to be able to have guys like that talking about farm and coming back and working with Pioneer and actually being in there too. So you're a part of that. So again, there's nothing about that you should be arrogant. Feel like, oh, I'm being cocky. I think you should be proud of that. And I think as a young farmer, continue to do that, because again, we feed the world as producers. It's a lot of responsibility that we have on our shoulders. So great job. Challenges, right? And I bring this up as a generic. What's the biggest challenge as you're trying to fund your dream, right? So back up with me. You're out there, you're grinding. You're like, there's no way this is going to work, but I started it. I'm going to stick with it. You're trying to fund your dream. What was one of the biggest challenges that you were able to overcome to be able to when did you knew you made it, right? Like, what was that one little thing?
Well, okay. So so challenges, obviously you have challenges outside of farming, like other businesses, challenges, starting the game, getting licenses, stuff like that. Sure. But when it comes to the farming operation, I'll say I've always viewed it as the farming operation started when I made my first paycheck of something when I was like 15 or 16 years old. I always knew that eventually I want to save up to start a farming operation of some sort. So I guess I look at it two ways is, starting farming as you can start right now and you can just hop into it with maybe a little less capital and just start right now and get into it. And farming will be a little more tougher probably. Or I viewed it as okay, you can start a business or do something else for the next 10 years or 15 years or 20 years, and then get into farming with a little more capital, and farming will be a little bit easier the rest of your life.
Sure.
So that's kind of how I viewed it when I was a kid is, okay, well, we're technically starting farming today at 15 years old. We're saving up, we're working towards that. And so
men among boys at that age thinking that way, right? As you look back.
Yeah. And so it becomes a little bit, even though I don't farm many acres at all. I think between me and my brother, we're 4 acres, which is still a good amount, but it's a little bit easier. It's a little bit easier nowadays, but still a goal of expanding and getting to where I could do it full time would be awesome.
Well, and this may be some controversial type stuff, right? So this is watch out when you start looking at and again, I'm no different, right? So I have a full-time gig, right? But then I farm. So if you look at that, we have to do something. There's a lot of folks that are out in our industry. I think they're talking 1.8 million farmers across the US, right? So a lot of those producers are 4 to 5, 6, 800 acre farms or bigger, but they're using off farm income to be able to come back and help try to take that over. So I think that's good advice, right? Have a plan, outlook, right? You're not going to take it over today. And if God willing, you can do something like that and you're, in a better capital position because I guess work that off farm income. Nobody hates you for that, but I know that they're grinding out there, right? Because you see it, you feel it, grinding every day to kind of take over that family farm. It's not fair, but it's what we have to do these days.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the only reason it's like this. I mean, it seems like the only reason it's like this, I could be wrong, but it's just because people love what they do. People love farming. People just generally love farming. And they're so passionate about it that it makes it super competitive is, I guess, the way I viewed it.
And I hope that never goes away, right? Because
Yeah,
if you listen to Torque and Sawyer, right, they talk about it all the time. Those big corporate farms, no offense, but that there's probably a finite time for them to not grow, right? Because the small farms that you're influencing, the 500-acre guys, never go away. And thank God, I hope that never happens, right? Because the local co-ops, the local ag dealerships, that whole marketplace that comes along with that is massive, right? We can't have that implode. So I think, again, it's almost saving the ag industry, right? Because conglomerations can't do everything. I think this small, I don't know what you consider small, but 100 acres to 1,000 acres, right? I mean, that's the stuff that makes the world go around.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I fully agree.
I love. Again, I'll talk a little bit more about your background. Maybe we'll have to do it a different time, right? Maybe we'll do it face to face in the field. But I think when you start looking at kind of where I guess American Farming Squad built, the YouTube channels, if you look down the road, what's the next thing that's coming, right? Outside of those things, like what's in that brain of yours right now as you're thinking creatively? Is it going to be in the ag industry? Is it going to be what's next?
I wouldn't say there's nothing in the back of my head right now that I've like a idea for or something to create or something like that. I'm always open. I'm just always open-minded to be like, okay, if there's a problem of some sort that I see in 5 or 10 years from now, maybe creating a solution to that or starting a company around that would be awesome.
Yeah.
And I always keep in the back of my head, like, for example, the YouTube channel, when you build up a big following and audience on the YouTube channel, I'm specifically talking about the real life YouTube channel. Someday when you go and start some type of company around that, say you develop a company in 5 or 10 years, having that marketing is absolutely insane. So I always have that in the back of my head because the real life YouTube channel doesn't really make that much money at all. It's just something I'm passionate about.
Sure.
So there's nothing major. There's nothing major right now. I'm just living life and just enjoying it. And I've always said, if I was like a billionaire or worth $2 billion, I would just farm the rest of my life. Like that's what brings true
Right.
happiness. I'd farm 1,000 acres for the rest of my life. So that's kind of where I am now, as comfortable as it kind of sounds. So,
well, no, listen, this is, again, I'm just trying to pick your brain a little bit because I think of you as a dreamer, right? As somebody that's an innovator, as somebody that's probably futuristic in everything you do, right? You're talking to me today, but I'm sure there's a piece of your brain saying, I got to do this, this, and this. Hey, what ifs, right? Like all those things are happening in that machine, right? And I think it's really cool to see, a day in the life of what you're doing, right? Literally on your follow you around the farm stuff. I'm sure you've got some pretty sweet camera setups where you got like the backpack that's like, moves with you like my damn camera that's always jacked up. But you're a little like the Discovery Channel, I'm sure.
Yeah. My brother's really the one that like manages and edits all of it, but he's got the 360 camera where like,
oh yeah,
like just you said, he throws on his backpack. It's funny because the first time he used that, he was so excited for it. And then in the comment section, there's like a couple kids that are like, I don't ever want to see that 360 camera again. And it just killed the guy because he was so pumped to see it. Right. It's annoying seeing that is what everybody was commenting. So he was excited to see it though.
You need those police body cams too, right? Like, man, they've got all kinds of setups. That's kind of the scary thing is they've got cameras for about everything you could ever want. But it is amazing to watch some of the things you guys are creating. And I think that again, I don't know how you guys were raised or what mom and dad did, but they've definitely generated something within you guys that creative talent. It's something that I hope that, again, you guys never lose and you continue to push this envelope, training the next generation. For those of you guys that have not checked out American Farming, please do. I think you guys will find it pretty cool. Watch some of these YouTube videos, especially if you're a younger farmer, producer. Even if you're an older guy, I'll point you, Dave Schrock, an older guy, you can learn something from these young guys too. Go out and check that out. If there's something that we haven't talked about, or the one thing maybe, Grant, that you wanted to leave somebody with today, as you start kind of thinking back of the things that we talked about, what would be the one thing you would say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna leave this with these folks. I hope it resonates.
I guess the one thing I always think about in the macro view is understand the most first important thing is to understand what game you're playing. Meaning in business, like, is this like farming, for example, it doesn't produce great cash flows. Am I working my butt off on it for a reason, or another business that I'm starting? Is this a game that's going to generate a lot of wealth over time that I'm playing? So I've always looked at things of like, okay, in business, what game am I playing? And then if I'm playing the right game that's going to, in this sense, I'm talking about money creation, then I need to focus extreme amount of effort towards that game. So I've always looked at it as make sure I'm playing the right game in business first before I work extremely hard at that game, is how I viewed things.
It's a great strategy, and one that I think that'll help folks as they kind of navigate through where they want to go or where they're at, where they should be. One thing that's kind of, my son, I've got a 21-year-old, is he 21? Yeah, 21-year-old son. Vin plays, I don't know if I can say the name of the games, but he plays first-person games that are military. I'll say that.
Okay. Yeah.
And he's dug into it, and he'll show me like all his hours that he has built into the games, and I'm like, dude, if that was a full-time job, you worked like a 2,000-hour work week. Like you've got days. He's talking like 30 days worth of time in a year that he's got into this, right? Like, so I'm thinking to myself, you're exactly right. In the game of life, when you start looking at it's, farming's addictive, right? It's a game that's really addictive.
Yep.
Make sure that you're all in. If you're putting those hours in, make sure there's some sort of ROI. And I think that as you're looking at opportunities to work with, Total Acre or anybody else that can help your operation, certainly great advice as you start looking at strategies of, am I in the right place? Am I doing the right things? Grant, super cool to have you on. I know you're a busy dude, but thanks for making things happen today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, Chad. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you. Take care. Have a great week. Good luck farming the rest of the year.
Yep. You too. We'll see you.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in today to this episode of the Total Acre podcast. Hey, if you enjoyed it, you liked the conversation, be sure to subscribe. You know the drill. Spotify, Apple, YouTube. Go give us a click, give us a like. Until next time, though, keep pushing forward. We hope that you found something unique, something powerful here that might help you unlock your farm's potential. We look forward to seeing you next week. Be safe. Talk more here soon on the next Total Acre podcast.